Can I get a glass of water? I'm serious. I'm thirsty. Can I get a glass of water? This is not a prank. You never seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's amazing.
No.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this.
Problem
He's
is solved?
bullshitting the world. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say that.
Speaking of Barack Obama, he decided to drop a post on X today, and I thought, okay, maybe in the wake of the Pete Hegseth presser, he's going to say something like, no matter how you feel about the Iranian strike, hats off to our, boys in blue, our guys in the bombers. He went a different way. This is what it was.
I'm curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad. Part of the reason I think I ended up having anything to say.
Barack Obama's carefully built image just faced an unexpected and sharp comedic breakdown this time. Not from political opponents, but from Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly. With zero chill and full firepower, the two unleashed a wave of criticism that cut straight through the polished surface Obama is known for. They didn't waste time with subtlety. Rogan and Kelly openly questioned the authenticity behind the speeches, the charm, and the media praise. Instead, they framed his legacy as a masterclass in political theater, well-written, well-delivered, but lacking the transparency they believe the public deserves. What made their commentary hit harder was the mix of biting humor and brutal honesty. It wasn't just jokes, it was a serious unmasking of contradictions they believe have been ignored for too long. The idea that charisma could always protect Obama from criticism. They pushed back against it hard. No script or teleprompter could help in this scenario. This was raw conversation, unscripted, bold, and unapologetically critical. If Obama's legacy has long lived in a spotlight, this moment felt like that very light beginning to expose more than it glamorizes. Whether you agree or not, the message was clear. The era of unchallenged admiration is fading, and real questions are finally catching up.
When they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, this. And then they it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped.
We'll be remiss if we do not do at least one clip from the Barack Michelle Obama appearance, the podcast, because everybody thinks they're getting a divorce, and let's face it, they probably are. She dragged him onto her show with brother Craig.
Barack Obama could probably give a TED Talk on brushing his teeth and still make it sound like he's solving world hunger. Such is the power of his polished delivery and that air of quiet superiority. For years, he's floated through the public sphere on a breeze made of Netflix deals, best-selling memoirs, and nostalgia-driven speeches that often feel more like performances than conversations. But recently, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly took that inflated image and tore into it with sharp, unapologetic commentary. This wasn't your typical polite critique, was a full-blown take. Their words cut through the surface charm and went straight for the heart of what they see as an overly glorified legacy. Gone was the politically correct tone. Gone was the halo effect. What remained was a raw, pointed challenge to the idea that charisma should outweigh accountability.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws.
Protecting whistleblowers, which they didn't do at all. There was one of the worst administrations for whistleblowers.
Let's start with Joe Rogan, a guy who's interviewed everyone from neuroscientists and MMA champions to comedians, astronauts, and even a few people who eat raw liver for breakfast. He's known for digging beneath the surface, and even he couldn't resist unpacking the layers of the Obama mythology. You might expect a former president to be above Rogan's radar, but when your post-presidency tour starts looking more like a high-end branding campaign than public service, you become fair game. Rogan honed in on what he saw as the growing disconnect between Obama's public image and his lifestyle. This is a man who once claimed to deeply understand the struggles of the American people, yet now moves in a world of gated estates, private flights, and glossy magazine spreads where Michelle Obama looks more like royalty than a former first lady. It was a sharp contrast Rogan couldn't ignore. And he called it out with the kind of blunt honesty that's become his signature.
Definitely not helping the Democrats knowing what we now have confirmed about Biden.
Give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto.
While Obama was out collecting praise and awards for simply existing in the spotlight, Megyn Kelly wasn't about to let that narrative go unchallenged. She came in strong with her signature delivery, part polished news anchor, part courtroom, closer, and part nonsense mom who just found out her kid's been bluffing about homework. With precision, she unpacked the Obama era like a closet full of designer suits, impressive at first glance, but long overdue for a reality check. Her main target, that well-maintained illusion of Obama as the flawless, untouchable symbol of hope, change, and near-infinite wisdom. Spoiler alert, she didn't just question it. She dismantled it with the calm efficiency of a TSA agent uncovering something suspicious. Gone was the glow. What remained was a figure whose myth may have outlasted the substance.
Maybe it's the old sperm. Maybe it's not the vaccine that's causing the autism.
Oh, yeah,
you know, why don't you look at that?
They'll never let that secret out.
Good luck with that one.
That may be the key behind all the defunding everything.
What is this? This is just some grievance fest again with two of the most privileged women on earth who are really bitter against.
And let's be clear, they didn't hold back on Michelle Obama either. If Barack was the voice of the brand, Michelle often felt like the entire marketing department, creative team, and public relations engine rolled into one. Her influence was massive, from fashion to food policies. Remember the nationwide push for healthy lunches? Kids were suddenly trading fries for quinoa, while the first family dined in style at state dinners. Critics, like Rogan and Kelly, pointed out the double standards, calling out the contrast between the public messaging and the private lifestyle. Michelle once gave passionate speeches about equity and sacrifice while wearing designer heels. That cost more than many Americans make in a week. To some, it felt less like inspiration and more like a performance. And this is exactly what Megyn and Rogan wanted viewers to question. The image versus the reality.
Rivers said that Michelle Obama was a man before she died.
Was that a joke? I thought it was a joke.
I thought it was a joke too, but the way she said it wasn't like jokey. She was like, oh, come on, everybody knows Michelle Obama's a man. Like, remember that?
Yeah, like, would Big Mike kill you for that?
Rogan took what he saw as pure hypocrisy and ran it straight through the grinder. After all, nothing says we relate to the working class quite like turning your post-White House years into a luxury lifestyle tour complete with publishing deals, podcast cameos, and beachfront estates. But Rogan didn't just question the image, he shredded it. He compared the Obama's post-presidency brand to a flashy garage gym setup that looks great on Instagram. Until you realize the weights are hollowed out to him, public service had morphed into a personal brand more polished than practical. And just like those wellness influencers promising to cure stress with lavender oil and 7 push-ups, Rogan saw the messaging as more marketing than meaning. Megyn Kelly wasn't far behind. She tore into Obama's foreign policy record with the precision of someone who's done her homework. From drone strikes to the infamous Nobel Peace Prize, she held up the contradictions for all to see. Receiving a Peace Prize before achieving any major peace-related results. Kelly framed it less as an award and more like a participation trophy for simply not being George W. Bush.
Subject, which is like these rich and powerful people who are totally unaware of how people perceive them and how great their lives are and how little they should be complaining, period, never mind publicly. Which leads me to Michelle Obama. Every day, she's dropped another negativity bomb on us, whether on her podcast or on someone else's. I mean, this audience knows she never says anything positive. It is all complaints. So she goes on another podcast. She's promoting her show, so she's making the rounds. The Diary of a CEO podcast.
That Nobel Peace Prize. According to Megyn Kelly, it aged like a Blockbuster membership, something that once sounded impressive, but now feels like a joke everyone's in on. She didn't just mention it casually, she dug deep, calling it out as one of the most premature awards in modern political history. Obama had barely stepped into office when he received it, and what followed was a presidency marked by drone strikes, military escalation, and an expanded surveillance state. Kelly didn't rely on emotion or snark alone. She brought receipts, from declassified memos to real-world consequences. She painted a picture of a leader who talked about transparency while quietly reinforcing the very systems he promised to reform. Hope and change, sure, but often served with a side of metadata collection and foreign policy moves that sparked global controversy. Rogan jumped in right behind her, attacking Obama's carefully curated media legacy. He pointed to the endless documentaries, the podcast interviews, the narrated specials that seemed more like a personal highlight reel than public reflection. According to Rogan, it felt less like the work of a former president and more like a PR campaign aimed at keeping the Obama brand polished and profitable. And when it came to media interviews, Rogan didn't hold back. He mocked the late-night hosts, lobbing softballs, saying the interviews looked more like celebrity fluff pieces than journalistic challenges. It was, in his view, the political version of a billionaire-friendly t-ball game. No heat, no pressure, and certainly no accountability.
You both in the same room
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
These are the kinds of things
Yeah.
that I just miss, right? So I don't even know this stuff's going on.
Right.
And then somebody will mention it to me, and I'm all like, what are you talking about?
People think that they're on the outs because they're not always in the same room together, Maureen. That's what she would like people to believe. Like she had what, 1 or 2 public appearances without him, and that's what led to the divorce speculation. That's not quite it, my dear. It's what are the things? Oh, your words. It's your words.
How can someone appear so relatable while staying so far removed from the lives of everyday people? That's the contradiction Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly jumped on without hesitation. Barack Obama often talks about the middle class like he's describing an endangered species, something he read about in a college textbook, rather than a group he's truly in touch with. Megyn called out the almost untouchable aura that follows him everywhere, saying he speaks like a living TEDx talk, polished, eloquent, rehearsed, but ultimately hollow if you actually listen closely. According to her, he's the kind of speaker who can talk for 15 minutes, say absolutely nothing, and still receive a standing ovation like he just cured polio. But behind that glow, his actual record tells a very different story. Kelly pointed to the deportation numbers under his administration, higher than many expect and enough to shock some of his most loyal supporters. There were global conflicts quietly escalating during his presidency, and domestic division that only grew deeper. For all the talk of unity and progress, the reality on the ground was often tense, divided, and far more complex than the speeches suggested. And then came the money trail, the part that made Rogan visibly annoyed: the post-presidency speaking fees, the luxury deals, the 6-figure payouts for showing up and giving a polished recap of life in the spotlight. Rogan mocked it as less about service and more about selling the brand. Too many working-class Americans. It doesn't feel motivational, it feels like watching someone cash in on public service while claiming to still speak for the people.
Affectation, like, oh, my man. And like she doubles down in the following clip. It's just over the top. And here it is, 37.
There hasn't been one moment in our marriage where I thought about quitting my man. And we've had some really hard times, but we have had a lot of fun times, a lot of adventures, and I have become a better person because of the man I'm married to.
There ain't been 1 minute when I thought about quitting my man. Now, she doesn't talk like that, right? Who does she think she's kidding? It's quitting, like it has no T's or a G. My man. Okay, she's like, there's something going on there where she's really acting in order to be like down home and I love my man and trust me, and like the whole thing to me looked like a complete affectation.
Megyn Kelly added even more fuel to the fire by highlighting how the Obamas, once hailed as outsiders and voices for the common people, ended up aligning with the very institutions they used to criticize. Wall Street, corporate media, major publishing houses. Suddenly, the power structures they once side-eyed became stepping stones in a very lucrative post-White House chapter. That outsider image, according to Kelly, it vanished quicker than one of Obama's infamous red lines. Michelle wasn't left out of this economic critique either. She's no longer just a former first lady, she's a brand, a cultural force, a full-fledged empire wrapped in high-end fashion and inspirational slogans. She speaks about unity and decency, but as Joe Rogan pointed out, the real skill seems to be maintaining an image of humility while living a life of luxury. Rogan didn't hold back, joking that the Obamas probably read speeches about empathy while being chauffeured between mansions, with interns fanning them and holding Whole Foods bags on standby. Megyn wrapped up her analysis by slamming the celebrity worship that has followed Obama since day one. She argued that America didn't just elect a president, they elevated a pop culture icon. The problem, beneath all the charisma and applause, was a trail of performative morality, policy missteps, and a pattern of speeches that sounded great, but often led nowhere. Obama, she said, became the ultimate motivational speaker, someone who could fire up a room, inspire a crowd, and then forget to handle the details, like paying the nation's rent.
Fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, the basketball team. What's it called? I can't remember the name. The Clippers, thank you. Game without her. And the LA Clippers. And then with Steve Ballmer, who's the owner, he's been on this show. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with both daughters, Malia and Sasha. But again, no Michelle, according to TMZ. So
I think they seem to be soft launching their divorce.
And for all the glowing press coverage, nostalgic documentaries, and carefully curated public appearances, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly pointed out a truth that's getting harder to ignore. The mess America finds itself in today didn't start with Trump's tweets or Biden's gaffes. It started quietly during the Obama years under a polished surface of elegance, eloquence, and likability. While the public was dazzled by speeches and late-night charm, decisions were being made that shaped the political chaos we see now. Rogan didn't let that slide. He made it clear that when you sit in the Oval Office for 8 years, you don't get to walk away like the cool substitute teacher who just showed up to play a movie and crack a few jokes. You were the one behind the desk. You called the shots. You don't get to pretend you were just vibing when policy, war, and division unfolded on your watch. Megyn drove that point home with surgical precision, reminding viewers that real leadership isn't just about how you make people feel, it's about what actually happens. And behind Obama's signature smile and crowd-winning pauses, a lot happened quietly, strategically, and often behind closed doors. There were drone strikes, surveillance expansions, and deepening political fractures, all camouflaged by charisma. Now, as Obama floats through post-presidential life like a retired superhero still signing autographs and selling collector's editions, Rogan and Kelly pulled back the curtain. The myth, they argued, has overstayed its welcome. Sure, Obama still has the voice, the timing, the stage presence, but the echo chamber is beginning to crack. The applause feels thinner. The spell is wearing off. And with Rogan's raw, unscripted takedown and Megyn's focused, no-fluff commentary, that glossy political showroom finally took a hit. They didn't just question the illusion, they dismantled it. They shut off the spotlight, unplugged the teleprompter, and walked out while the smoke was still rising.
No, and she's also out on David Geffen's yacht with Oprah. And then, her memoir was named Becoming. Look at me, Becoming, with her big face on the front. Like, okay, she's a little drunk on her own wine, but not on Barack's, which is just interesting to me. At this point, after having been First Lady twice, thanks to him, let's face it, Michelle Obama was not some star in her own right. She was a lawyer, I think, at Sidley and Austin.
The last day, when is it? When do they say you got to have your bags packed? You got to get out of here?
I don't know. I should find out. No, it's actually amazing because they literally move all your stuff out in one day. You are living there, and then suddenly it's not all out on the south lawn. I mean, they pack it up, but they will move it to wherever it is that you want to move it to. And so you're living in the White House up until Inauguration Day,
And when Michelle Obama appears to lecture Americans on decency, she doesn't exactly come off like your favorite aunt sharing life advice over tea. No, it feels like a decree from a marble throne, grand, untouchable, and oddly disconnected. The irony, She and Barack spent 8 years in the White House, smiling through carefully staged unity while their own party was bleeding out at the state level. Megyn Kelly didn't hold back, she called out the disconnect. Because powerful speeches, no matter how elegantly delivered, don't rebuild working-class communities, they don't reform broken school systems, and they certainly don't fix the promises left hanging in the air once the cameras turn off. Meanwhile, Rogan zeroed in on what he saw as the cultural blind spot, a collective obsession with the image of Obama rather than the impact of his leadership. The pedestal he still enjoys, Rogan argued, isn't built on policy wins or transformative change. It's built on style, on rhythm, on the way he walks, talks, and pauses for effect. That silky smooth delivery could make a budget cut sound like poetry. And that's the problem. Because beneath that surface charm is a long trail of unfulfilled promises, strategic ambiguity, and a party still scrambling to clean up the mess that wasn't loud but was lethal. Rogan didn't sugarcoat it, he called it what it was, high-level PR wizardry. A kind of political cologne sprayed over deep dysfunction. Obama had mastered the art of making reality feel like inspiration, even when it wasn't. He could narrate a thunderstorm and still get praised for how poetic the rain sounded. But the storm didn't stop just because it sounded nice. It wrecked the ground beneath it and left voters disillusioned and divided. And the irony that really hit hard. His party, the one that once claimed to stand for change, is still knee-deep in cleaning up what was quietly left behind. Widening cultural gaps, shrinking trust in institutions. A generation more interested in how things feel than how they actually function. Rogan pointed out that this wasn't an accident, it was the natural outcome of 8 years of hope speeches, negotiated behind closed doors with a reality that never matched the script. Megyn and Rogan weren't just critiquing, they were exposing. They weren't inventing new scandals, they were echoing what millions have silently been thinking every time Obama's face flashes across a Netflix thumbnail. The myth was already cracking. They just gave it the final push. Enough with the nostalgia tours. The show's over. It's time to look past the smoke machine, the background music, and the smile, and start asking what really happened during those carefully staged 8 years.